"Don't expect a gift this Christmas. You don't deserve it," she said after I refused to open our marriage. I said, "Fair enough, but you'll get your gift," and filed for divorce. Packed my things while she was at work. On Christmas, she came home to an empty apartment and divorce papers. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. And if you have your own story to share, send it to me. My contact info is in the description below. I'd love to feature it in an upcoming video. Thanks. I never thought I'd be the guy posting his life implosion on the internet, but the silence in my new apartment is deafening, and I need to document this while the anger is still keeping me warm. My wife, Sarah, 30F, and I, 32M, have been married for 5 years. I'm an electrical engineer. She works in PR. For a long time, we worked. I was the ground. She was the lightning. I provided the stability, handling the mortgage, the investments, the boring stuff, and she provided the excitement. But about 6 months ago, the dynamic shifted. Sarah started obsessing over leveling up. It started with the gym, then a new wardrobe, then a sudden intense privacy regarding her phone. She started picking fights about my lack of ambition because I was happy with my 6-figure job and didn't want to launch a crypto startup or become an influencer. She called me stagnant. She called our life suffocatingly binary. Then came the first week of December. I had planned a quiet, romantic Christmas. I'd bought her the gold bracelet she'd been eyeing for months, hiding it in the back of my sock drawer. But 2 weeks before the holiday, she sat me down on the sofa. She didn't look at me. She was scrolling through Instagram while she talked. "I can't do this anymore, OP," she said, her voice flat. "I feel trapped. I have needs, intellectual and emotional, that you just can't meet. You're too safe." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Are you asking for a divorce?" "No, God, don't be dramatic," she scoffed. "I don't want to lose the house. I just want to open the marriage. Ethical non-monogamy. I've been reading about it. It's natural. Monogamy is just a control mechanism designed to limit women." She had the script down perfectly. It sounded like she was reciting a podcast she listened to in the car. "I'm not doing an open marriage, Sarah," I said, keeping my voice steady, though my chest felt tight. "I'm not sharing my wife." She finally looked at me, and her expression was pure, unfiltered contempt. "You are so fragile," she spat. "This is exactly why I'm unhappy. You limit me. You're like an anchor dragging me down into this boring, suburban mediocrity." She stood up to leave for a networking event at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. She grabbed her keys and turned to me with a smirk I will never forget. "Don't expect a Christmas gift from me this year, OP. You don't deserve it. Gifts are for partners who support growth, not jailers." Something inside me didn't just break, it evaporated. The love, the loyalty, the desire to fix things, it was just gone. I looked at her and said, "Fair enough, but you'll get your gift." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever. Just don't buy me cheap jewelry." She left. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in the living room in the dark. About an hour later, her iPad, which she'd left on the coffee table, lit up with a notification. It was synced to her phone. I didn't even have to guess the passcode. It was her birthday. I read everything. She wasn't exploring autonomy. She was banging a guy named Mark, a brand consultant she met at a conference back in October. The texts were vile. "Sarah, he almost cried when I brought up the open marriage. He looked like a kicked puppy. Mark, LOL. Keep pushing. He's a beta. He'll cave. We need his paycheck for the mortgage, babe. Don't leave him yet. Just train him. Sarah, I know. I just hate looking at him. I can't wait to be with you on Christmas." I told him I have a crisis management thing for work, so I can be at your place all day. That was the plan. She was going to spend Christmas Day at Mark's condo while I sat at home like a chump, staring at the tree. I put the iPad down. I felt clear, cold, efficient. The sadness didn't come. Only the realization that the woman I married didn't exist anymore. In her place was this stranger who thought she was the main character of the universe. I deleted the notification on the iPad so she wouldn't know I saw it. I went to the bedroom and packed a single bag for the gym the next morning. The next day, I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I initiated the exit. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in deception. Not by her. She was sloppy and arrogant, but by me. I adopted the gray rock method. If you're not familiar, it basically means becoming as uninteresting as a rock. I stopped initiating conversation. I stopped asking about her day. I slept in the guest room, claiming I had insomnia and didn't want to disturb her. When she made snide comments about my fragility or brought up the open marriage again, I just nodded and said, "I'm thinking about it. I just need time to process." She interpreted this silence as submission. She thought she had broken me. She became smug, treating me with a weird, pitying kindness, like a owner patting a dog they just kicked. She walked around the house with an air of victory, leaving her phone unlocked on the counter more often, too confident to care. Meanwhile, I was executing a precision strike on our life together. I took a half day off work and met with a divorce attorney. I showed him the screenshots I'd taken of the texts. He told me that in our state, while no-fault divorce is standard, proving infidelity could protect me from alimony claims, especially since she was the higher earner on paper this year due to a bonus, but I had the higher base salary. We strategized. I found a new apartment, a sterile, modern one-bedroom in a high-rise across town. It had polished concrete floors and zero warmth. It was perfect. I signed the lease to start on December 23rd. I went to the bank. I didn't drain the accounts like an angry ex. I calculated the exact balance of our joint savings and checking accounts down to the cent. I transferred exactly 50% into a new account at a different bank. I didn't take a penny more. I wanted my hands to be clean when the judge looked at the financials. I started packing in the margins. When she was in the shower, I moved my passport, birth certificate, and social security card to my laptop bag. When she was at the gym, I took my collectible watches and my grandfather's camera and hid them in the spare tire well of my car. I cleared out my hard drive. I changed all my passwords, email, banking, retirement, even Netflix. She noticed nothing. She was too busy texting Mark about how easy I was becoming and planning their Christmas hookup. Then came Christmas Eve. Sarah went out to get a blowout and her nails done, prepping for him. While she was gone, I drove to the U-Haul Center. I rented a 15-foot box truck. I didn't park it in the driveway. That would tip my hand. I parked it 3 blocks away, on a side street behind a row of hedges. That night, the house felt strange. It was decorated with the lights and stockings we'd put up together, but it felt like a film set for a movie that had already wrapped. Sarah came home looking polished and expensive. She was in a good mood, humming to herself. "I'm really excited for tomorrow," she said, pouring herself a glass of wine. "I know it sucks that I have to work, but this crisis management thing is huge for my career. It proves I can handle the big leagues." She looked me right in the eye and lied without blinking. "I understand," I said. "Work comes first." "You're finally getting it," she smiled, tapping her glass against the counter. "I think the new year is going to be really good for us, Opie. Once we open things up, you'll see. It takes the pressure off." "Yeah," I said, looking at the clock. "The new year is going to be very different." I went to bed early. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the house. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't sad. I felt like an astronaut on the launch pad, just waiting for the countdown to hit 0. Christmas morning arrived with a bright, mocking sunshine. Sarah put on an Oscar-worthy performance of being stressed about her work emergency. She rushed around the kitchen, shoving a protein bar into her purse, checking her reflection in the microwave door. She wasn't wearing her usual work blazer. She was wearing a cashmere sweater and the diamond earrings I bought her last year. She looked like she was going on a date, not to a crisis meeting. "I can't believe I have to go in," she sighed, grabbing her car keys. "I'm so sorry, Opie. This is the worst timing." "It happens," I said, leaning against the counter, drinking my black coffee. "Go save the day." She stopped at the door, hand on the knob. She turned back to me, her face hardening just a fraction. "Remember what I said?" She reminded me. "No gift. We need to reset expectations for this marriage. Independence is the best gift we can give each other." "I remember," I said. "Drive safe." She didn't kiss me goodbye. She just walked out. I watched through the blinds as her car backed out of the driveway and disappeared down the street. I waited 2 full minutes. Then, I set my coffee cup down in the sink. The clock started. I ran out the back door, jogged the 3 blocks to the side street, and hopped into the cab of the U-Haul. I fired it up, drove it onto the front lawn, right up to the porch, and threw the back door open. I didn't have movers. I didn't want witnesses. And frankly, I needed the violence of the exertion. I needed to sweat the betrayal out of my system. I went to work. I didn't bother with the heavy sectional sofa or the solid oak dining table. I couldn't move them alone, and I didn't want them. I wanted to take the life out of the house. I wanted to take the convenience. I started with the electronics. I unmounted the 65-inch OLED TV from the wall, leaving the ugly bracket and the dangling wires exposed. I took the Sonos soundbar. I took the PlayStation. I unplugged the router and the modem, stuffing the tangled mess of cords into a box. The house went offline. I moved to the kitchen. I packed the Breville espresso machine, the one she didn't know how to use but loved the coffee from. I took the Vitamix. I took the toaster. I opened the drawers and took the good chef's knife, the silverware, and the corkscrew. I cleared out the pantry of the expensive olive oils and spices, leaving only a stale box of crackers and a can of soup. I went to the bedroom. This was the hardest part, physically. I stripped the bed. I took the duvet, the high thread count sheets, and the memory foam topper. I left the bare, stained mattress sitting on the wooden frame. It looked like a crack house bed. I took the lamps from the nightstands. I took the batteries out of the TV remotes and tossed the empty plastic shells on the floor. I took the shower curtain from the master bath. I took the toilet paper rolls. I worked like a machine for 6 hours straight. My shirt was soaked through. My knuckles were scraped. But with every box I taped shut, I felt lighter. By 3 p.m., the house wasn't empty, but it was dead. It echoed. It looked like the people living there had fled in the middle of the night. It felt cold, hollow, and hostile. I did one last sweep. I walked into the kitchen. The island was the only surface I hadn't cluttered with debris. I placed a small, red gift box in the absolute center of the granite counter. Inside the box was a thumb drive containing the PDF of her texts with Mark, the bank transfer receipts proving I took exactly 50%, and the petition for divorce I had filed 2 days prior. Resting on top of the folded papers was my platinum wedding band. I grabbed the last box, walked out the front door, and locked it. I dropped my house key through the mail slot. It clattered onto the hardwood floor inside, a final, metallic period at the end of a sentence. I climbed into the truck and drove away. I pulled into my new apartment complex just as the sun was setting. I carried a few essential boxes up to my unit: the TV, my clothes, the coffee maker. I ordered a pepperoni pizza from a local place. I sat on the floor of my new living room, leaning against the wall, eating greasy pizza out of the box while Die Hard played on the TV, sitting on the floor. I checked my phone. 7:30 p.m. I blocked her number. I blocked her Instagram. I blocked her Facebook. I blocked her sister. I blocked her mom. Then, I cracked open a beer and waited for the fallout. The silence held for about 2 hours. It was the most peaceful 2 hours of my life. Then, around 8:15 p.m., the digital siege began. Since I had blocked her number and all her socials, she couldn't call or text me directly. But I hadn't blocked her on my old Gmail account, the one we used for utility bills and random junk mail. I had it open on my laptop, sitting on a moving box next to my pizza. The notifications started pinging. Email 1, 8:17 p.m. Subject: Where are you? Why is the Wi-Fi down? I can't find the router. And where is the TV? Call me right now. I took a bite of my pizza. She had come home expecting to ignore me, only to find she couldn't even watch Netflix to drown out the silence. Email 2, 8:30 p.m. Subject: Pick up the phone. I'm freaking out. Did we get robbed? The bedroom. Why is the mattress stripped? Opie, this isn't funny. Where are the lamps? Call me, or I'm calling the police. She was panicking. The reality of the physical environment was hitting her. The house wasn't a home anymore. It was just drywall and a subfloor. Email 3, 9:05 p.m. Subject: You are a monster. I found the box. You are sick. You are a twisted, psychotic narcissist. You can't just leave like this. You ruined Christmas. You stole the espresso machine. You stole the toilet paper? Who does that? I chuckled. The toilet paper really set her off. At 9:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. No caller ID. I knew it was her. She was probably using a neighbor's phone, or, even better, Mark's. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but I decided I wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear the autonomy she so desperately craved. I swiped answer and held the phone to my ear. I didn't say anything. You bastard. Her voice was shrill, cracking with hysteria. You think you can just disappear? You abandoned me. You stole half the furniture. I didn't steal anything, I said, my voice calm, contrasting sharply with her shrieking. I took what I paid for. I took what I needed. You took the router, she screamed. You took the shower curtain. How am I supposed to shower? That sounds like a logistical problem for a single woman to solve, I said. I am not single. We are married. Check the box on the counter, Sarah. The petition is filed. You wanted to explore your options. You wanted to be free of my boring stability. You wanted an open marriage. I took a sip of my beer. Now you have the most open marriage possible, I said. You're single. The house is yours. The lease is in your name. Merry Christmas. Opie, wait, please. I hung up. I blocked the number. I found out later, through a mutual friend who had seen the beta texts and firmly taken my side, exactly how the rest of her night went. It played out like a Greek tragedy. After I hung up, Sarah couldn't stand being in the dark, empty house. It was too creepy. So, she packed a bag and drove straight to Mark's condo. She showed up at his door around 10 p.m., crying, mascara running, dragging a suitcase, expecting him to be her knight in shining armor. She probably thought this was the start of their great romance. She was free of her boring husband, ready to fall into the arms of her exciting new lover. But Mark? Mark was a 28-year-old brand consultant who liked sleeping with married women precisely because they had homes to go back to. He liked the secrecy. He liked the low stakes. When he opened the door and saw a hysterical, soon-to-be divorced woman with a suitcase trying to crash his bachelor pad on Christmas night, he didn't see a girlfriend. He saw a liability. He told her he wasn't in a place to receive this kind of heavy energy. He told her she was trauma dumping on him and that it was a turnoff. He didn't even let her stay the night. He closed the door in her face. So, Sarah, the woman who wanted everything, ended up with nothing. She had to drive 40 minutes to the suburbs to stay with her mother. Her mother is a functional alcoholic with a personality disorder who has criticized Sarah's weight, career, and life choices since she was a toddler. It is the one place on earth Sarah hated being, and I had sent her right back there. I finished my pizza, turned off the TV, and went to sleep on my mattress on the floor. It was the best night of sleep I'd had in 6 months. The next 3 months were a blur of legal paperwork and quiet reconstruction. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't reply to the long, rambling emails she sent at 2 a.m. begging for closure. My lawyer, a shark of a woman named Karen, the good kind of Karen, handled everything. She made it clear to Sarah's representation that the infidelity proof I had would make any attempt at alimony a waste of their billable hours. Since I had legally secured exactly 50% of our liquid assets and refused to contribute a cent toward the mortgage of a house I wasn't living in, Sarah was drowning. She couldn't refinance to buy me out on her salary alone, especially with her credit card debt. We had to sell the house. Last week, we met at the title company to sign the closing documents. It was the first time I had seen her face-to-face since she walked out the door on Christmas morning. I arrived early. I felt different. Good. I've lost 15 pounds, not from stress, but because I finally had the time to hike and cook real food instead of eating whatever takeout Sarah wanted. I was wearing a fitted jacket and jeans. I looked like a man who had his life back. Sarah arrived 10 minutes late. She looked wrecked. The glow-up she had cultivated for Mark had completely disintegrated. She had gained weight, the puffy, unhealthy kind that comes from cheap food and cortisol. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and she wasn't wearing makeup. She looked 10 years older. She sat across from me at the mahogany conference table. She didn't look me in the eye. The signing took an hour. It was mostly administrative silence, broken only by the scratching of pens and the notary stamping pages. When it was finally over, the lawyers stepped out to make copies of the checks. We were alone. Sarah stared at the table, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. Mark was a mistake, she whispered. Her voice was small, trembling. I didn't look up from my phone. I was checking the tracking on my new espresso machine. Okay. She looked up, startled by my indifference. That's it. Just okay. We were together for 8 years. OP, doesn't that mean anything to you? It meant a lot, I said, finally meeting her gaze. Until it didn't. I was confused, she pleaded, tears welling up in her eyes. I was having a crisis. I let him get into my head. He made me feel like our life was a trap. But living with my mother, that is the trap. I'm miserable. I miss our home. I miss us. She reached her hand across the table, palm up, inviting me to take it. I can fix this, she said. I'm in therapy. We can start over. I know I hurt you, but the punishment doesn't fit the crime. You destroyed my life over a few texts. I looked at her hand. I felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No love. No pity. Just the cold, hard facts of who she was. I didn't destroy your life, Sarah, I said, leaning back in my chair. I just gave you exactly what you asked for. I didn't ask for this, she sobbed. You did, I corrected her. You called me a jailer. You said I was holding you back from your potential. You wanted autonomy. You wanted excitement. I stood up and buttoned my jacket. You wanted an open marriage, I said. Now you have the most open marriage possible. You're single. You're free. OP, please. Don't, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it stopped her cold. You told me I didn't deserve a gift this year. And you were right. I walked to the door and put my hand on the handle. I deserved peace. And now I have it. I walked out into the parking lot. The spring air was crisp. I got into my truck, rolled the windows down, and drove to a steakhouse. I ordered a ribeye, medium rare, and a glass of Cabernet. I hear through the grapevine that she's trying to date again. But it turns out, the dating market for 30-year-old divorcees living with their toxic mothers isn't quite as robust as Mark led her to believe. As for me, I'm in no rush. I bought a new Breville. The coffee tastes better when you drink it in silence. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.